Hello everyone, I have returned from Maine, I am back from vacation, and I'm also back making videos. As it turns out, a lot of stuff happened while I was gone, from racial slurs being dropped on Monday Night Raw, to TNA completely changing its name, to a boatload of stuff. Major release from the WWE, AJ Styles winning a title at a house show. All sorts of craziness and all sorts of different things going on for me to comment on. So I'm going to try and knock out everything in this one video, which is going to probably wind up being fairly long. This will involve a lot of reviews, but I'm not going to go match for match, show by show. That would just be overkill, and I'd be here forever. It's already past midnight, so technically, Great Balls of Fire is later tonight. So, yeah, I'm really getting this preview in right under the wire. But let's just get started with this massive list of things that I have to get over and to cover here. Okay, first of all, top 10 matches for June 2017. I'm just going to skim right through this. It's mostly matches I've reviewed. Roppongi Vice versus the Young Bucks at Dominion for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight titles, tag titles, I should say. Very enjoyable match, even though I've seen it 8,000 times. Number 9, Asuka versus... No, I'm sorry. Number 9 is Jeremiah Crane versus Killshot in the Cueto Cup first round match. Probably the best match in the Cueto Cup so far as Lucha Underground's concerned. Very enjoyable, hard-hitting, high-striking match. Very good stuff. Number 8, Asuka versus Nikki Cross in a Last Woman Standing match on NXT. Very good match. One of the best women's matches NXT's had in a while. Number 7, Dean Ambrose versus The Miz for the IC title, where Dean Ambrose will lose the title if he gets disqualified from Extreme Rules. Like I said in my Extreme Rules review, I thought it was really funny that the match that is designed to be the least extreme on the card ended up being the match of the night. I just thought that was really funny. Number 6, Hiromu Takahashi versus Kushida for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title from Dominion. The latest entry in their growing series of matches, and the best match they've had so far. It was excellent. Number 5, Prince Puma versus Mil Muertes in a Boyle Heights street fight from Lucha Underground. Bit of a character turn for Puma. It's him going to the dark side, as it appears to. Anyway, as he's fitting more and more in with that character. Yeah, the matches that these two have had in the past have been very good, and this was no exception. Just a very good, excellent match between these two, with Puma finally getting a win over Mil Muertes. Number 4, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the IWGP Intercontinental title from Dominion. Dominion was a very good show, if you couldn't tell. Excellent match, another great outing involving these two, with Tanahashi getting his revenge on the villainous Naito. Very good stuff. Number 3, Will Ospreay versus Kushida in the finals of the Best of the Super Juniors. Outstanding match, and just crazy action from bell to bell. Just really great stuff, and a perfect way to end the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. Number 2, Johnny Mundo versus The Mac in the all-night long match for the Lucha Underground title. This ushered in Lucha Underground's return from hiatus. Season 3 starts up again, and they completely tore it down. And there were so many different things going on in this match, and it's just a excellent way to bring Lucha Underground back. I thought it was a terrific match and a great first episode back. And my number 1 match of the month goes to Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega for the IWGP World Heavyweight title from Dominion. Their hour-long draw. Absolutely stupendous match. I know it's become kind of a joke that it's like, oh, Meltzer gave the first one 6 stars, and this one he gave like 6 1/4 or something like that. It's slightly better than the first one. Yeah, and that kind of sounds like a joke, but really, I mean, the matches that these two have been that good, and they deserve that level of praise. So, yeah, another outstanding match between two greats. So, with that, let's get into all the different updates. And I guess I'll start with WWE. And I guess I'll start right off with the news that broke not too long ago. Austin Aries has been released by WWE, which is somewhat surprising because he was playing a fairly big role in the Cruiserweight division. And I thought maybe he'd be a mainstay for a while, but apparently that's not the case. I don't know any details about why he was released. Maybe he asked for his release. Maybe he did something wrong. I don't know. Maybe WWE didn't have plans for him. Again, I don't know. I do feel like that's kind of a loss for the Cruiserweight division. Hopefully they find a way to fill that void. That's really all I have to say about that. I guess we'll learn more as more details come out about it. But yeah, that was a bit of a shocking, kind of a shocking release and a bit of a surprise. I guess we could just go into Monday Night Raw and all the updates that have happened since the last time I made a video. Like I said, we had the son of Lamar Ball dropping the N-word on Monday Night Raw, which is kind of hilarious, not gonna lie. Kind of reminds me of Booker T a little bit, that famous clip. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm sure it's embarrassing for the company, and you know, I mean, that's the danger of live TV, unfortunately. But whenever something like that does happen, it just strikes me as funny because I don't know, I'm just immature. It's like, oh, that didn't go according to plan, or oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Oopsie daisies, that's embarrassing. The stockholders aren't gonna like that. But yeah, I mean, that was probably one of the more noteworthy things that happen on Raw lately. Although, I will say, Raw has been better lately, and that's largely because of the Samoa Joe-Brock Lesnar feud, which has been handled fairly well, I have to say. I've been somewhat critical of Samoa Joe since he went up to the main roster, but I think this feud has kind of lit a fire under him, and he's, you know, the match he had with Roman a couple weeks back was really, really good. And, you know, they've built up this feud in a way that it's brute versus brute. It's a fresh match we've never seen before. And it looks like the way they're building it that there's a chance that Samoa Joe could beat him. Now, honestly, I don't think Joe is going to beat him. I'm like 90% sure Lesnar's going to retain the title. But the build-up on TV has been handled pretty effectively. So I am happy about that. The Enzo and Cass feud, even though I have my doubts about breaking them up so soon, and I know they've been on the main roster for, and when you count their NXT time, they've been together for like 5 years, but I have my doubts that they could work well on their own. But some of the segments have been really good. Like the initial turn was handled well. Enzo's promo last week on Raw was handled very well. So, yeah, I kind of expect their pay-per-view match to be a squash, but we'll see how it goes. And I guess that'll lead me right into Great Balls of Fire, the next Raw pay-per-view, which is probably the single worst named pay-per-view in WWE history. It's either that or like that one in your house that they called Seasons Beatings. There was also It's Time, which, God, they were horrible naming those in your house shows. But yeah, for a pay-per-view with such a terrible name, the card ain't half bad. I already talked about Lesnar and Joe. Already talked about Enzo and Cass, which has the storyline behind it. They did the Women's Gauntlet on Raw, which was fairly entertaining. Honestly, I liked it more than the Women's Money in the Bank rematch that they did on SmackDown the next night. But yeah, so we got Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss. She's challenging Alexa for the title. That should be okay, I would think. We got the Hardys versus Cesaro and Sheamus in a 30-minute Iron Man match for the tag titles, which, okay, that could be a really good tag match. You know, I don't know. You could look at it as kind of a step down from a cage match, but the cage match has been devalued so much that I almost don't care. So yeah, that could be a really good kind of maybe potential show stealer. You got Seth and Bray. I couldn't possibly care any less about that. Which is kind of my reaction to all of Bray Wyatt's stuff these days, unfortunately. Ambulance match. I loved Braun Strowman's reintroduction. I thought that was handled really well. And we're getting Roman versus Strowman again. If it were up to me, I would have Strowman go over because, you know, the Joe Lesnar match was supposed to be Strowman and Lesnar, clearly. And when Strowman got hurt, they just put Samoa Joe in that spot. So, if we're up to me, I would have Strowman go over here and then be next in line to face Brock at whatever the next title defense is. And see if you can get, keep riding that Braun Strowman train, at least for a little bit longer. I think the ambulance match should be good, except it'll have the same problem that all of Roman's matches had, and that the fans don't like the protagonist. So, like Braun Strowman could beat him to the point of death, and the fans would cheer. So it's like, how do you get heel heat that way? But Great Balls of Fire card, not too terrible. Not great, but not too terrible. And it's got a main event that I legitimately want to see. So that's all really good. SmackDown, unfortunately, has almost nothing going for it. And it's sad because AJ Styles, who just won the United States title at MSG, by the way. Interesting that they did that at a house show. Every few years or so, they'll do something like that just to make it look like, oh, anything can happen. But yeah, I don't know. SmackDown's just not doing it for me at all. Like, there's nothing going on there that's got my attention. I already mentioned the Women's Money in the Bank. They did a rematch to make up for what happened at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, but we got the same exact result anyway, so it was like, well, what was the point? I mean, why have two ladder matches just to have Carmella win them? It's like, that almost feels like a waste of... It wastes the pay-per-view match because it's like, well, why should I even bother forking over the $9.99 for a pay-per-view when you're just going to do a rematch on the USA Network a few days later anyway, or a week later, or whatever the case is. And, they just did the same result anyway, so it's like, it felt like nothing was accomplished, to be perfectly honest. What else is going on SmackDown? Oh, they're bringing back the Punjabi prison because we have to have Orton versus Jinder Mahal for the title for the what feels like 18th time, even though they've only wrestled each other twice on pay-per-view. I'm just bored to tears with the feud, and I want, whatever you're gonna do with Jinder, just move on from Orton because I'm just sick of it. But yeah, we're getting the Punjabi prison back, a match I never liked because aesthetically it just didn't look right. And it doesn't film well because you've got two structures set up and they're layered on top of each other. So it just never a match that did it for me. But whatever. John Cena's back! Hooray! And he's going to be facing Rusev in a flag match at the next SmackDown pay-per-view. And I honestly don't give a shit about that match because in my mind, I feel like they've already ruined Rusev, so it's like, fine, whatever. Just Cena beats him again. And even if Rusev wins, it's like, he's damaged goods. Who cares? It's like, and I don't want to, be that dismissive of it, but it's just like, look, it's like, are you going to get Rusev to be as hot as he was a couple years ago when he was really on a roll and really had a lot of momentum going? I have my doubts. But, yeah, I guess the only other noteworthy SmackDown thing that happened was the Usos dropping a reference to Paige during that rap battle with the New Day, which, aside from that, was a horrible segment. And again, it's kind of like what I talked about with the ball situation, where it's like, sometimes when somebody goes off script or says something a little bit raunchier or naughtier, I typically like it. It feels more human that way. And really goes for the kind of that visceral response and that more meaningful response to everything rather than just living in your own little WWE bubble and acting like like the Paige sex tape didn't happen, or acting like just. If you can't tell, I'm super tired, by the way. But yeah, it's I typically like it when stuff like that happens, and apparently I've heard that the Usos have caught heat for it. I don't know how true that is, but it's one of those reasons where I'm like, whenever I hear fans say it's like, oh, we got to bring the Attitude Era back, and I just start laughing. It's like, dude, like the Attitude Era, like people will completely lose their shit if they even do half the stuff that they were doing in the Attitude Era. So it's just not going to work. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers main roster WWE. Let's go into NXT. Yeah, a couple of big matches have happened in the last few weeks, and we've got more coming up. We've got Authors of Pain defending the NXT tag titles against Heavy Machinery. I know very little about Heavy Machinery or if they're any good or not, but they're a good physical match for the Authors of Pain. Something that they haven't had, so it might be a nice little, like, brute, powerhouse type of match. We also had Nikki Cross versus Asuka challenging for the women's title in a last woman standing match. I already talked about it when I did my top 10, but yeah, great match. Like, really good, hardcore, down and dirty, let's get violent with a crazy finish with the superplex off the ladder through a table. And it's like, man, those girls really went at it. And it was one of the best NXT women's matches in a long time. And I was happy to see Nikki Cross do well because she's really won me over. She didn't win the title, obviously, but I was like, yeah, she's done well. I'd like to see her succeed and do more. We also had Bobby Roode defending his NXT title against Roderick Strong. Like I said initially, I think they've done a really good job of getting me to actually care about Roderick Strong through all the video packages that they've done and the explanation of his life and his family and all of that. It's made him feel more human and more relatable and gives me a little bit something to sink my teeth into whenever you put him in a title match like this one. And I thought the match he had with Roode was pretty good. I thought it was just a pretty good, non-takeover NXT title match. And a little disappointing that Strong didn't win, so it had that emotional element to it as well. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot going on with NXT at the moment. Johnny Gargano is coming back next week, which that should be interesting, and we'll see. Because of course Ciampa's still hurt, so we don't know how long we're gonna have to wait for that match. But it's gonna be totally worth it when it happens. I think those two are gonna tear it down. Moving right along from there. Let's go to Lucha Underground. Like I said, the Cueto Cup is still going. We just wrapped up the first round. So the second round is going to start next week. Really fun tournament. Really good stuff. A lot of squash matches in there, but I like that in early on, especially early on in a tournament. Establishes dominance, and then we get to see who like the real players are as we get further and further into the brackets. Kind of like March Madness in that way, where you always have those kind of throwaway games in the first round, but you kind of need them just to show who the dominant ones are, and it really like kind of sets the tone that way. Like I said, Jeremiah Crane and Killshot had a hell of a match when they main evented that one episode. And Jeremiah Crane, who is already better than he ever was in NXT, Solomon Crow, when he had that hacker gimmick. He's already, like, in Lucha Underground, he's already, like, 10 times better than he ever was over there. And the feud with Mil Muertes could yield some pretty good stuff, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. They also showed this one segment explaining Dante Fox's backstory, and it was done entirely with visuals. No extraneous expository dialogue, none of that. It was just all told visually and through flashbacks that Dante was having, and without, like, over-explaining it. I thought the scene was really well handled and really well shot and really well produced, and it's one of the best things that Lucha Underground has ever produced, which is really saying a lot, because their production is typically pretty good. So, yeah, I really like that scene and wanted to comment on it, because, again, it highlights what I like, which is visual storytelling. And when I talk about, like, poorly handled exposition, I mean, WWE, when you watch Raw, like, half of it is recaps. And the dialogue even seems to be structured in a way where it's like they sneak recaps in all the time. So it's just this really forced exposition and just treating you like you haven't been watching. Or it's like just assuming that they're getting new viewers every single week. And they have to hold their hands all the way through. It just feels annoying. So I felt like watching that one scene, I got a full understanding of who Dante Fox is, where he came from, what he wants, all just from that one scene, and most of it was visual with very little dialogue. So I really enjoyed that, and I thought that was great, top-notch work from Lucha Underground. What else is going on there? Oh, we've got Johnny Mundo versus Rey Mysterio for the Lucha Underground title. My understanding is it's going to air the same night as the Cueto Cup final, so you're going to get those two big matches, just boom, boom, big 1-2 punch. I think that's how they're going to do it. I don't know for sure. But this is setting the stage for Ultima Lucha Trace. The winner of the title match and the winner of the tournament are going to face each other at Ultima Lucha. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing how everything plays out and what we ultimately get at Ultima Lucha Trace. And one more minor Lucha Underground note: the Rabbit Tribe has become one of my favorite things. I wasn't sure what to make of them at first. They didn't really catch on at first, but watching them in these matches in the Cueto Cup and seeing how kind of goofy they are and how silly they are and how they look at Masquerita Sagrada as their king, as the Rabbit King, and all this other silly stuff, I'm just kind of like, I kind of like these guys. They're fun. Really goofy stuff, and I'd like to see a feud between them and the Reptile Tribe, just to get that contrast where you get these, violent snake people going up against these kind of more soft, goofy, nutty bunny people. So, the Rabbit Tribe, it's Paul London who's leading the group, and I've been really entertained by them. The last few weeks, I'm like, man, the Rabbit Tribe, they're kind of my jam now, which I never thought I'd ever say, but that's how it is right now. And moving right along, we've got, I'm going to close out with the Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling, but before I get into that, got to talk about TNA, Impact Wrestling, and the brand change. They will now, moving forward, be officially called Global Force Wrestling, which I think is a smart move. I think the TNA brand itself had been devalued so much and had been harmed so much, in addition to just being a stupid name to begin with. I think the GFW change is a smart one. GFW is really a brand that's only known to like wrestling fans at this point, like die-hard internet wrestling fans, and but for potential new audiences, this could be the start of TNA getting that facelift that they need. And by the way, I am gonna slip up a lot and call them TNA a lot, just because I've been watching it for almost since the beginning, 13 years at least. So, I think this was a very good move. It makes a lot of sense for them to do this, and I'm happy they're doing it, so Mazel Tov. Great stuff. And some of the changes and some of the personality changes that are already starting, you look at Slammiversary, which was a show I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed most of the show. They got Drago, they got Marufuji and Ishimori, and, they're doing the Super X Cup on Impact. They're bringing in some guys, and they're putting some pieces in place to kind of make a more exciting show than the kind of dying show that it was, say, a year ago, or before, the new regime came in and fixed everything. So, not fixed, but, at least they're trying to fix it, is what I should say. And, like I said, Slammiversary, the opening four-way tag was action-packed, a bit spot-festy, but it was a lot of fun, especially when you got, guys like Drago and Marufuji in there. I liked having Don West back at commentary. It was great to hear his voice. The pay-per-view voiceover guy, the original TNA pay-per-view voiceover guy, he came back to do the voiceovers for this show, which was kind of cool. A bunch of stuff happened on the show too. The Jeremy Borash, Josh Matthews, Scott Steiner, and Joseph Parks / Abyss match was completely bonkers, but so much fun. And I marked out like a bitch for Father James Mitchell. So, that match was very entertaining. I would even say they probably stole the show. I had that kind of Final Deletion, Broken Hardys feel to it. What else happened on this show? D'Angelo Williams looked absolutely incredible for a football player who has never wrestled a match in his life. He looked absolutely amazing in there. I was like, damn, look at D'Angelo go. I like it. Football and wrestling, two of my favorite things, and this guy's tearing it down. I really like it. It's like, God, when he wraps up with the NFL, don't be surprised if wrestling companies start giving him calls because he looked amazing in there. He really did. I was really impressed with him. What else? We got a full Hip Metal Mayhem match between the American Wolves and their wives. That was a fun match. The X title match was good. I think Low Ki looks stupid in that suit, though. And yes, I know they're referencing Hitman, but he looks really stupid. I like that the tie played into the finish. It's like, yeah, if you're stupid enough to wear a tie during a wrestling match, you deserve what happens to you. But, yeah, that match was fine. Alberto and Lashley in the main event, that match was fine. Storm versus EC3 in a strap match was good, and I like that they went with, like, he took a shot to the ring post, and it, like, led to him getting a concussion and passing out for the finish, which, I like when they try to make sense out of stuff like that, or try to give consequences whenever, like, stuff like that happens. So, I thought that was effective. I thought that was good. I liked Rosemary's entrance a lot with her coming out with the zombie chicks. I disagreed with her not winning the titles. I think she's kind of become like a hot act for Global Force Wrestling, and Sienna is kind of cold to me. Like, she's just kind of there, so her being the unified champion just kind of goes like, all right, if you say so. I probably would have gone with Rosemary, but as some people talked about it, it felt like all the TNA guys, like the guys that were there before the regime change, most of them lost, and the GFW guys mostly went over. So, okay, that was kind of a thing going on. Yeah, just really solid show, actually. I was really surprised that Slammiversary turned out as well as it did, and hopefully it's a sign of improvement for GFW as they move forward, and we'll just have to wait and see, because I'm a lot more intrigued now than I was before, just because it's like, all right, well, what are they going to do? And some of the surprises they had at the pay-per-view, I was like, okay, you have my attention. We'll see if you're able to do anything with it, but one company that doesn't really have my attention all that much is Ring of Honor. And it's not that the shows are bad. Ring of Honor's kind of been in this holding pattern for a while now. It's not, like I said, it's not that the show is bad. It's that they're in this holding pattern where I'm waiting for something great to happen, but nothing does. So I just kind of wind up getting a lot of matches that look the same and a lot of build-ups that look the same and just not a whole lot of intrigue going on. It's very safe paint by numbers. And again, like I said, it's not bad. I just want something like, could you throw some sizzle on that steak? I mean, you got more? Like, you got any great ideas or anything? And I saw Best in the World. I thought, again, it was a solid show overall, but so many of the matches look the same that it's kind of like, it was fine. It was just fine. I like that Cody won the Ring of Honor title. I think he was the right choice. I think he's doing really well for himself in, making himself kind of a global presence. And I think putting the ROH strap on him opens up a lot more possibilities than just keeping it on Daniels. No knock on Daniels, but it's like, all right, he had his feel-good win. Now it's time to go with the more interesting character, who at this point is Cody. And I'm glad to see Cody doing well, because he was one of those guys that really got a raw deal in the WWE, and I'm glad to see him, doing well for himself. He's in the Bullet Club, he's the ROH champion, he's wrestling in the Tokyo Dome, and all this other cool stuff. So, good for Cody. On this pay-per-view, I also like the Lethal, Silas Young, kind of the start of their feud, with Lethal getting his ass kicked by Silas Young in the Beer City Brawler, post-match. And it was actually an injury that played into the New Japan USA shows that happened. I guess I'll segue into that as well. I did watch both G1 USA shows. I thought they were solid. I think, once again, my main complaint with the New Japan show is that there's just way too many tag matches. Way too many, like, 8-mans and 10-mans and all sorts of stuff like that going on. It was pretty, got a little dry after a while. Roppongi Vice and the Young Bucks faced each other again for the IWGP Junior Tag titles, but, I feel like I'd seen that match too much at this point, and I'm just kind of sick of it. But Ricochet came back and kind of threw Lucha Underground some shade there a little bit, so that's interesting. Gave you a little bit of an insight what goes on behind the scenes at Lucha Underground. But he's going to be getting a partner. He's going to be challenging the Young Bucks for the belt, which thank God, because I can't watch Roppongi Vice and the Young Bucks again, I don't think. But yeah, I felt like, you know, the undercards of these shows were a little muddled. The best parts of the show, of both shows, were the two main events. I thought Cody versus Okada in night one was a very good title match and really kind of heightened the growing feud between Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega as they have their power struggle within Bullet Club and determining who the true leader is. So yeah, I thought this match was really effective at setting up like Omega trying to get back at Cody a little bit. And I thought the main event was very strong, and I think some of the tournament matches for the U.S. title, the new IWGP U.S. title, were very good. Mainly Omega's matches. Omega... He had an excellent match with Michael Elgin in the opening round, and then he had an excellent finale with Ishii, where they really just tore it down and had the best match of the weekend. So Okada was kind of the MVP of both shows. And I thought I thought Omega did very, very well all weekend long, and it's good to see him do well, because he is a very talented guy. He ultimately won the tournament, so he's the first ever IWGP US champion. I do have my misgivings about New Japan doing this title, because it's like, dude, guys, you have way too many belts as it is, you know? Do you really need another singles title floating around? But I thought the tournament overall was good, and like I said, Omega kind of just stole the whole thing for me, so that was good. And from there, we do have the G1 Climax to look forward to, and I've looked ahead at like what matches we're gonna get. I'm really excited. So the G1 Climax, I'm super excited for that, and I can't wait until that really starts up and kicks into high gear, because I think that could yield some really great stuff, including I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's an Omega Okada rematch somewhere in Block A. So it's got some really good stuff there. So with that, I think I'm all caught up on all the craziness going on in pro wrestling. It took a while for me to get there. I mean, when you don't watch for a week and then you try to play catch-up and you work a full-time job, it's really hard to find the time to catch up on all that material. But I did it. We made it through. And I'm back to making videos. So, yeah, I've got some ideas for future videos lined up. But you all stay tuned. Enjoy Great Balls of Fire. Hopefully Lesnar versus Joe goes well. But until next time, everybody, I'll see you all later.